You're listening to Pointing Pointers, the Point to Point podcast. Good evening. Welcome to Pointing Pointers. This is episode 6. I can't believe we're there already. I'm in the company of Sam Davies Thomas. I'm Ben Atkins. We've got a lot to look forward to in this episode. Sam, how are you?
I'm very well, Ben. Thank you very much. We'd be nearly on episode 10 if you'd pull your finger out, and we could do this every week, wouldn't you?
It's funny, actually. And we'll maybe touch on this later when the full extent of this sensational episode is revealed, Sam. But I've had to go see a back specialist today from carrying you around for the last couple of months.
Yes, a lot of my friends have had to do that anyway. If you want some money, I've had to be paying for that for about 32 years, to be honest. Are you well?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, it's a non-alcoholic G&T, by the way.
Okay.
Seed lip. Can't recommend it, but does quench the thirst. Okay, so the usual stuff at the top of the show. We are slowly getting more people subscribing to the YouTube channel, which is great. Thanks for doing that. We are actually seemingly, Sam, getting people that have watched the YouTube and decided that they just listen to it in the car, because really when they watch YouTube, all they get as an additional bonus is just watching me and you, which I would say is a huge bonus. But clearly some people are migrating back to
some would disagree with that, to be honest.
On podcast things. But if you are listening in your car, this is an episode that would be worth going back and looking at on YouTube, on the basis that there will be some footage later on that is well worth watching. Now, before we go any further, just another shout out to our partners, the PPORA, and of course, Redmills and Foran for their continued support. Thank you very much. Now, we have been racing at Weybridge, Ampton, and Sheriff Hutton since we last spoke, Sam. The thing with doing these fortnightly is that quite a lot of racing can happen in between. It could be every chance that there's not a lot of racing that happens between now and our next episode, looking at the weather forecast, Sam. But you caught up with a few people this week. Let's start with Weybridge. Max Comley's had another double. He's absolutely flying, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going really well. He started off the season great. He's if I'm being honest, I think he's aimed his horses in the right races. He's found the right races for his horses, and they've been duly rewarding him with winning. James King's riding exceptionally well at the minute. Double at Weybridge, as you say, following the horses winning up at Alnwick. Previously, Wagner obviously winning the Open, who we're going to see again on Sunday at Cockleborough, all being well, and JB Whiskey winning the Restricted. So, he's flying. He's going really, really strong. He's got a good team of horses to go at. He's got one in the Big Open on Sunday at Cockleborough. It'd be good to see him not a few more winners. It's good. It's good to have someone else coming through.
Yeah, 100%. And a wise man once said to me that the art of training is only half actually with the horses, and the other half is with the race planner and finding the right opportunities for those horses. And that's not a criticism what you're saying. I don't think you mean it like that, but finding the right races that are winnable for your horses is half the battle, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you've got to run them in the horse races they can win, and there's no point running them if they can't win. And obviously, he's running them in races he can win. So yeah, it's great for him, and he's a great guy. And James is doing really well.
All power to him. So Alan Hill trained the winner of the Young Horse Maiden, a nice winner for the Exelbees. Jake's a regular listener to the pod. I'm not sure if his other half is, but congratulations to them. That's looks a nice horse, and I'm not sure what the plan is, whether it's a sales horse as such, or whether it's one for the future to keep in house. But congratulations to them all the same. Ampton, Sam.
Yeah, no, great day at Ampton. 60 runners, 12 entered in the Restricted, 12 ran, 17 entered in the Maiden, safety factor of 13. They split that. It was a great day's racing, to be honest. The crowd was huge. The Turners rewarded with a good crowd of people and some great racing. Vaughan's on the score sheet again with Polly Roy. Nick Wright is doing great again. He's started off the season really well with a double. Mr. Biddick came up, run the maiden for Chris Barber, and Gina won a competitive Ladies Open with Captain Biggles, who looks to have progressed from last season. I thought he was really impressive. But no, it was great. And I had a chat actually with Nick Wright earlier, and this is what he had to say. Hi, Nick. Thanks very much for joining me on Pointing Pointers. Nick Wright trained and owned 2 winners at Ampton at the weekend. Can you give me a bit of background info on the 2 winners from Sunday?
Sam, what I'd first like to say is very well done to you for starting this podcast. It's great fun for all of us involved in the sport and really enjoyable. And then secondly, a big thank you to the Dunstan Harriers for putting on what was an excellent point-to-point on Sunday. Simon Stern, clerk of the course, as usual, prepared it brilliantly, and a big thank you to the Turner family. And they were properly rewarded with a really excellent day's racing and a good crowd. But another huge thank you to the local butchers, J&D Papworth. Every winner of a race got a fantastic box of meat from them. So that's just what point-to-pointing should be about. Onto the horses. Arkle we bought him at Doncaster in May. Alex Chadwick gave him a fantastic ride. Seems to have come out of the race very well, and we'll look for a restricted for him in 3 weeks' time. Red Maple, we were really thrilled with his run. Again, beautifully ridden by Kieran Murphy, who's been riding out for us a bit during the winter when he can get off school. He's still only 17. He's an excellent horseman and with a good racing brain, and I'm hopeful that lots of people saw how well he rode yesterday. He was the fellow without the silk on, and we'll start using him again in the future because he's definitely a very, very talented guy. And from a personal point of view, it was much more relaxing day than normal for me because I didn't have Archie in my ear with his first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth opinion on what should be happening and what we should all be doing. But anyway, great day, and thanks very much. Bye.
Some great words, Nick, and I expect nothing less from you. But now we've managed to get you on the voice recording system. It'd be a shame to let you go on that note. And talking about Archie, obviously Archie's not riding anymore. He's enjoying himself too much in London. It's great that you're able to keep the horses going, and your interest for pointing and love for pointing is still there, which is fantastic. And obviously you don't miss. You started back in 2010. You're 250 runners, and you've been working at a 27% strike rate throughout that whole time, which is quite remarkable. Can you tell everyone who's not sure? I'm sure the people who do listen do know, but the people who aren't sure about your background, your history of pointing, and your yard back at home, can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, my history with pointing is I think as anyone who's over 60 will know, I was really not a good point rider, but incredibly keen. And the highlight of my career was being beaten a short head in a 2-runner race at Horseheath. So I then stopped pointing and had 30 fantastic seasons hunting with the Cottesmore in Leicestershire. Loved every moment of it, and had some wonderful times and wonderful horses. And then when Archie wanted to start pointing, it just was a fantastic opportunity for me to get to train a few for him, and we did have a wonderful time. I always joke about it, but the truth be known, it's always been great fun. He gave some horses some terrific rides, and he was very keen to buy Red Maple, who is undoubtedly would not have happened without his spotting him and his enthusiasm, and also, to be fair, to Arkle, who also ran well on Sunday. So he was very instrumental in all those purchases. He isn't lolling around in London. He's actually working at Lane's End in Kentucky on a stud, because he decided he wanted to give London up and go for a career in horses. So he's doing the hard yards out in Kentucky, which he's thoroughly enjoying. So yeah, it's a terrific sport. The people, I think, are wonderful, and we all know we have good days and bad, but I thoroughly enjoy everything about it.
Just shows how long it's been since I was sat next to him in the weighing room, because last time I spoke to him, he was selling wine in London. So yeah, he's gone for a hotter climate, which is great. No, your horses have always been ones that everyone stands up and recognises when they're in the paddock, whether you're riding against them or betting against them. But no, we wish you all the best for the rest of the season. You've made a great start to it, and thanks for your continued support to point. And it's great to have someone like you still having runners in points. Thanks for your time, Nick. Take care.
He seems like a bit of a character, Sam, and it's great. The game needs them.
Yeah, no, he's a lovely guy. He's I remember a good friend of mine, Paddy Garrity, when Archie wasn't around, used to ride for Nick up in East Anglia. He's always picks the right horse, and he does it incredibly well with his horse. As I said before, his strike rate is ridiculously over. Since he's been training, he's had 250 winners, and he's on nearly a 27% strike rate. So yeah, it just shows he's got a lovely yard in Newmarket. As he said, Kean Murphy, who we interview later on as well. Well, I had an interview with him for the PPORA race that he won on Red Maple. He's a good rider. He won the novice award last year. He's a big lad. Hopefully he gets some rewarded with some chances this year, because, as he said, Ed Vaughan's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. A notable double of seconds for Kelly Morgan, which must be equally annoying as it is satisfying.
Yeah, no, the horses look fantastic actually in the paddock. I thought they looked really, really well. Yeah, Foxy Lee was just touched off by actually an impressive horse. Mick Keogh's paper mill actually went away, won by 8 lengths in the end. But Foxy Lee, didn't let herself down in any way, and she's going to be a nice horse to keep on the right side of. And yeah, Go Geronimo second in the Open. Ran well, got beat at length by Castle Trump, who's a horse that loves it round Ampton. Winner for Charlie Buckle, who gave it one of the utmost James Best celebrations after the line with a holler that you could probably have heard from the A14. So well done to him.
Good on him. So to Sheriff Hutton and the return of Premier Magic, which is great. And Steph caught up with Bradley Gibbs.
Yeah, obviously we were meant to go to Chadsley December 28th, but obviously that was off, so we had to reroute to here. Look, he made it look hard work there. Ground's very, very soft, very deep and holding. Look, he's got the job done. He was a little bit idle in front. I probably hit the front too soon on him. And he's just had a good look around going down to the last. But once I got stuck into him, then he quickened away to the line. So that was a good starting point for the year. Let's see how he comes out of this tomorrow now, and see if it's taken much out of him. We might give him one more run. If not, we'll go straight to Cheltenham with him. Yeah.
Another good horse for us all to look forward to this season, Sam. And I noticed that the Easterbees had a customary winner, and another winner on the board for John Barlow. I say another winner because his strike rate last season was fantastic. Always knocking on the door. He's always there or thereabouts. He doesn't waste many darts, does John. And I caught up with him about Fortune Hill's win in the restricted. John Barlow, it's well documented that you know the time of day of your horses, but honestly, were you expecting that in the restricted first time out with your first runner this season at Sheriff Hutton on Sunday, or not? Hope you're well. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Hi, Ben. Hope you're well. Fortune's Hill. Yeah, we thought Sheriff Hutton would suit him. And I think after last year, he was pretty entitled on paper to be sort of knocking on the door in the first 3 there. His work's been very good this year. Was good last year as well. But he picked up a virus last year in January, and I didn't end up running him till April at Thorpe Lodge. And he went straight into restricted because my plan was to go to the restricted final at Stratford. So I cracked on and got a bit of work into him, and he went to Thorpe Lodge and won that nicely. And ended up at Stratford, finishing behind Captain Biggles, who's only beat a couple of lengths. That looks a very smart horse going forwards, and I think it won the Ladies Open at Ampton yesterday, so sort of boosted its form and Fortune's Hill's form. We thought he would go well. He wants soft ground and, stays really well. This time of year, you've got to stay around Sheriff Hutton. I thought he did it nicely. He switched off nicely. Paddy got him settled and, he did all his best work at the end. I just made sure that he, got plenty of work into him to go there, because he'd obviously got to carry the penalty. It's quite a lot to do first time out for your first run against that opposition. I think that was probably going to end up being a pretty good restricted going forwards for the rest of the season. So yeah, thank you very much.
great to catch up with John. Yeah, he's another character in the sport, but he does incredibly well with his horses, which is good to see as well. I also had a chat with Roisin Leech after her win, her actual first point-to-point winner. She obviously runs a lot under rules for her family. She rode Mount Muse to victory in the Ladies Open for Lucinda Hughes. Great for her to bag a point-to-point win. It's a shame we don't see him more on the point-to-point circuit, but I had a chat with her about her ride at the weekend.
Hi Roisin, welcome to Pointing Pointers. Well done at the weekend, your first point-to-point winner, which came as a bit of a shock to me. But then I looked through it and you've actually only had 6 rides point-to-pointing. So nice ride to get Mount Muse up at Sheriff Hutton. Can you tell me a bit about how you got the ride and how you found him?
Hi, it was great to get the ride on Mount Muse. Brian Hughes has ridden a little bit for my mum last summer, and he just came up to me in the weighing room one day, asked if I had a pointing licence. I actually didn't at the time, but I got that sorted and was very lucky to get the ride on Mount Muse. He's an old boy, he knows what he's doing, he sort of takes himself around there. He jumps great and he travels a little bit on and off the bridle, but he's tough where it counts at the end, so that's all that matters.
That must have been great to be asked by Brian to get the leg up on Mount Muse, and you grabbed the opportunity with both hands. Have they got many horses for you to go out for the rest of the season, and are we likely to see you on the pointer field a bit more?
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. I felt very privileged to get. They just have the 2 pointers, I think, Mount Muse and Super Citizen, who actually ran in the Hunter Chase at Kelso on the same day. I'm not too sure if I'll be pointing again this season. I'd love to, if I could ever get the jock back up on that lad, I'd take that. But I'm not 100% sure right now. So we'll just see how the season goes. But I wouldn't imagine it'll become a weekly event anyway.
I've been very busy, Ben. I also had a chat with James King. I thought, well, we've got to keep him sweet. He keeps riding the winners, so hopefully he's going to keep our listeners' pockets full. And he had a nice winner for Julie Wadland on Lagan Valley at the weekend, a horse that's obviously, apart from running out, so to speak, at Garthorpe, would have been gone unbeaten from his maiden, and he won really impressively up at Sheriff Hutton. And I spoke to James earlier to talk about that and his rides for the weekend.
Jimmy King, well done again at the weekend. You get notching up quite a big lead now in the men's title, which is good. You bagged another win at the weekend for Julie Wadland, Langham Valley, who under different circumstances would probably be unbeaten from his maiden win. He looks a nice progressive horse. Well done. Looking forward to the weekend now. Obviously, we've got Larkhill. Hopefully, if we survive the weather on Saturday, and it looks like you're going to be at Cockleborough on Sunday. Could you give our listeners a run through some of your rides? As you keep banging in the winners, it might be of interest to them, and just talk about your best chances for the weekend.
Hi Sam, yes, all going very well at the moment, so very happy and can't complain. Lagan Valley is a very progressive horse. He won his maiden restricted intermediate last year and obviously kicked off the season this time winning the conditions race at Sheriff Hutton. It's by far the deepest race he's ran in on paper, and a huge step up in class and whatnot, and he dealt with the task very well. He won sort of quite cosy at the line. He would be a horse who wouldn't do an awful lot in front, but I think there's plenty left in the tank. So no, fingers crossed, plenty for him going forward for connections. The weekend I'm at Larkhill Saturday and Cockleborough Sunday. I've got a few really nice chances. I think a horse of Fred Hutsby should go well in the maiden on Saturday at Larkhill, called Belshazzar. He ran a very nice race first time out and just got a bit tired first run of the season, first run in Britain. He had to come on an absolute 10 for the experience, and he seems to like Larkhill, so no, fingers crossed. And then Cockleborough Sunday, got a few nice chances here. I think my best chance on paper will probably be Wagner, I'd imagine, in the Hunt members. He's been very good this season. He seems to turn inside out and back to his old form after a small wind operation in the summer. He's won 2 opens this year and beat some very useful horses in doing so. And I should think that the £5 penalty he should be able to easily overcome. So fingers crossed. Hopefully the weather's kind to us, and see you all pointing.
Sam.
Yes.
I've got something I need to tell you.
What have you done?
Well, You know, you were in the pub last night when I was trying to get hold of you.
Well, I was having some dinner, mate. Yeah, it's what a single man normally does. Goes down a pub to eat his dinner on his own.
Oh, don't you make me feel even worse. Well, I might have had a Zoom call with Nick Luck.
Oh, what? Just a quick one, like?
Well, no, just about 20 minutes or so for this pod.
Well, without me?
Yeah, it's bad, isn't it?
But he didn't want to speak to you last time when I went on his. What's happened?
Anyway, without further ado, let's listen to my chat with Nick, recorded last night for your listening pleasure. So, we're very privileged on Pointing Pointers to be joined by Nick Luck, who needs no introduction. Nick, how's January treating you thus far?
Slowly, Ben, is the honest truth. Slowly. Like it is for everyone. And it doesn't matter whether you're busy, like you and I are most of the time, or whether you haven't got much on. It just crawls, doesn't it, until about the 28th, 29th. Then you have to fill in a tax return and it goes far too quickly and then it's gone. And then the rest of the year evaporates.
Someone told me, well, today, apparently in 38 days today, the sun will set at 7 p.m. So I think we're all looking forward to that.
It does make life a lot easier, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Anyone in horses will agree. And so firstly, Nick, a huge thanks for having us on your own podcast late last year. It's no doubt helped us unearth a few point-to-point fans out there that didn't realise our podcast was a thing. And it's
your podcast is a thing, and I'm always happy to do anything I can to support point-to-pointing and hunter chasing. So, yeah, all power to you guys and what you've done.
Well, a massive thanks. And it's also proof that Karma is alive and well, because having been overjoyed to join his longtime idol on the Nick Luck Daily, Sam is currently in the pub and has been forced to leave this interview to me. So sorry, Nick, you're stuck with me for the time being. But
not at all.
You're a busy man. Some would say the hardest working in racing. You've got a busy day tomorrow, etc. So we're going to have to keep this focused on pointing as much as I could chat to you all night. And anecdotally, to anyone who's been listening to you for the last couple of years on your own podcast or just generally in the media, everyone knows that you have a fondness for pointing. Presumably it played a part in your childhood. I believe you spent a bit of time in the glory days on a point-to-point course.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know when the glory days were, but during the 1980s, I spent a huge portion of my childhood, particularly at Tweedledale, which was the most local course to where I grew up. I was actually born in Ascot, but by the time I was a toddler, my parents had moved to near Hartley Wintney in Hampshire, and Tweedledale was easily the nearest race course then. And in those days, they held maybe 9, maybe even 10 meetings a year. Hunts that have maybe no longer even exist had a meeting there. The club had a meeting there. A lot of hunts that have now amalgamated. The Isle of Wight had a fixture there. Mr. Goshen, obviously the Garth and South Parks. There's so many, and they would run pretty much all the way through the season, which was then February till May or whatever it was. And my parents had a big involvement with the course because it was owned by the Ministry of Defence and probably still is actually. But the little consortium of people, my dad Guy and Philip Schooler, who was a legendary point-to-point rider and owner, and Mark Davies, who was latterly a trustee at Ascot, they sort of headed a consortium to buy the lease off the Ministry of Defence, and they ran it for about 12 years.
I see.
I should think probably lost a small fortune doing it, but I think they had a lot of fun along the way. And then when they finished the lease, they passed it on to British Eventing, who kept point-to-pointing going there for quite a long time until finally they could no more years ago, which was a great sadness because it was a great track and it had a lot of facilities that other point-to-point tracks don't have. There was a semblance of a proper grandstand. You obviously had the hill with the tower, so you could pretty much, if you got the right point, watch it all the way around. And although by standards of rules race courses, it probably not that galloping compared to a lot of point courses. And you could take a proper big chaser there and get him or her ready. So I saw some fantastic horses race there as well.
Amazing. So very, very fond memories. And more recently, are your interests confined to sort of notable sales transactions or showcase hunter chases, or are you more involved, Nick? I've seen an exciting entry at the weekend.
Well, this has come about sort of by accident a little bit, but I have quite often been involved in the horses that have pointed or have been involved with pointing. Not all that long ago, my mother had a nice horse with Ilorni and Alan Hill, who she bred, called Alveston, who ended up winning black type under rules, and her career got sadly cut short, and which I think she would have been not far off a sort of 140 odd staying chaser if she stayed piece, but sadly she was confined to bumpers and hurdles and did pretty well in them too, but broke down in the mare's final at Newbury when she was second favourite. But she went there with an idea that she might go pointing because she hadn't run terribly well in one bumper, and then Lorne rang me about 3 weeks later and said, this is a bit too good to go pointing with, we'll win a bumper. And Julie, she did first time for her at about 33-1, beat a good horse of Peter Bowen's. And we did back her. Anyway, this, long story short, this mare that runs at the weekend, called Sound of Music, is the final, the final living foal. There was one more after her, but the final living foal out of Alveston's dam. So Alveston was the first, and Sound of Music is the last, effectively.
I see. Amazing.
Yeah, and so it's sort of full circle. And when my mum died at the beginning of last year, sadly, the mare, or the beginning of 2022, sadly, this great big 17-hand mare had done a leg when Noel Williams was training her, and she'd actually never really run that bad a race. She just hadn't won. She's slow, but she keeps going. She tries hard. So we were quite hopeful that when she got handicapped over fences that she'd be all right. Anyway, she's had over 2 years off the track. She's not been particularly easy to train, but she is very straightforward to deal with. And she had a bit of R&R at my brother's place just south of Oxford. He had ridden in a few points in Hunter Chases back in the day.
2005, I see.
I'll tell you, well, no, way before then. I'll tell you about that in a minute, actually, because he came up against some of the best Hunter Chasers of the modern era. For people fans of this podcast, they'll be in raptures. But back to Sound of Music, he and I both sort of decided, and I egged him on a bit. I said, look, why don't you try and, maximize the fun we can have out of her and train her yourself?
Yeah.
They've got some facilities at home, and then he does a lot in Lambourne, formerly with Oliver Sherwood, and he's been helped out recently by Warren Greatrex and Jamie Snowden and others. And he said, look, I can use the facilities in Lambourne. I can use the facilities at home as well. I can probably get her pretty fit myself. And I said, why don't you just crack on rather than sending her back under rules? And then, of course, if she does go and do well pointing, we can go and make most of our handicap mark of about 80 or whatever it is. It's incredibly low. She's a 9-year-old maiden now, but she's had no mileage. She's massive. She's probably only just filling her frame. Listen, I don't know. She's, as I say, she's very slow, and we're not expecting much, but it'd be nice to get her back on the course. And fingers crossed, we're going to Cocklebarrow this weekend. And if we don't, it'll be, is it Chipley Park down in Somerset?
Yes. Yeah. Same day. Yeah.
But if neither of those are on, I think it's something the following week.
Yes. Well, that is extremely exciting, and kind of what pointing is all about. A bit of a family affair.
Yeah, probably is. Really it'll be. There won't be a dry eye in the house if she runs well. Put it that way.
Absolutely. And are you going, Nick?
I'm planning to. I think the race is scheduled for about 3 or 3:30. So I reckon if I finish my Sunday TV show in 11:30, I reckon I'll make it. So
yeah,
fingers crossed.
I'll just have a quick look for you. 3:30, very possible.
Unless they divide and put it on at noon or something. But
7
and up. I reckon I've got the right idea, Ben. What do you think? 7-year-olds and upwards. I said to James, try not to be running against Tom Ellis, Alan Hill, Charlie Post and Fran Post 5-year-olds. That would be a good start.
It's definitely it's definitely a better idea. Yeah. So Nick, I was keen to ask you, in your view, in a sport where the left arm is rarely on speaking terms with the right, is there anything obvious that point-to-point racing can do to take a step closer to our brother or sister under rules as such?
Well, how far do you think it's gravitated away from rules racing? That would be the worry, isn't it? I expressed this view to. I had Jeremy Scott on my Sunday program this week, Cornelius Lysa, who's a big point-to-pointing fan, and Alan Johns, and we were talking about how many of those Welsh guys who are doing so well under rules have had their roots in point-to-pointing, and obviously Jeremy himself, his roots were in pointing, and his whole training career was founded off the back of one horse who they bred, who was 15-1, and the Land Rover broke down on the way to the point, and they got a win out of it in a terrible race, but they were so overjoyed that this set the ball rolling for the rest of his career and everything that followed. And I think that's the case with so many trainers. You know, a lot of Paul Nichols's roots are in point-to-pointing. Nicky Henderson's roots are in point-to-pointing. I think, honestly, the point-to-point community have got to reinforce the message that, you know, so much of the bedrock of jump racing, national hunt racing, is in the amateur branch of the sport. And so much of the goodwill towards jump racing has been founded in fields, in counties around the British Isles, and still very much is in Ireland. Yeah, it's such a shame if the beating heart of the sport is lost, really. And I worry then, you know, what we're left with. So many of the people who want to give of their time and want to help the sport and want to do it purely out of love and goodwill and with no financial incentive, their love of it comes from the community aspect of point-to-pointing.
Absolutely. We talk about that a lot, and don't tell Lydia his lot, but I think part of it is just a sheer horse population problem. And I mean, that she would completely concur, I'm sure. Yeah, I know, that's what I mean. Don't wind her up, but definitely a horse population problem. But equally, like, I do have a slight concern that as you know, we've talked about with the social license, and for example, ITV pulling the coverage of the Hound Parade before races at Cheltenham and things. I do think there's perhaps a nervousness amongst those running the sport under rules of the close association with point-to-pointing and hunting, and the least hunting communities helping run the event. So that is a concern of mine. But I absolutely agree, you know, that we have to just keep trying to reinforce the good things that we do for the sport at the grassroots level.
Well, I mean, as things stand, as I understand it, trail hunting is still legal, and hunts existing remains a legal activity.
Absolutely.
Now, clearly, those who don't support hunting or didn't support hunting before the Hunting Act under the Blair government will say, well, nothing's changed. We know that it's still the same as it used to be, and many hunts will resume. But in order to say, right, you can't show hounds on television, that is working on the presupposition that law breaking is taking place all the time. You have to work from the basis that people are abiding the law. You have to assume that people are abiding the law when you're making a value judgment as to whether activities that are underpinned by these institutions are legitimate or not.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So we've seen recently that, you know, with the premierisation discussion about the struggles with marketing sport in general, and you know, we've got to try and do that at the grassroots level. And, you know, what would be your focus if I was to jump in an elevator with you now and say, you know, pitch pointing to me, where would you start?
Well, it is without doubt the most fun you can have for the least outlay. In terms of
so glad to hear you say that. I could not agree more.
in terms of being a spectator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not only that, you can, you know, yeah, it's no frills, but you can get so close to the animals and so close to the sport that you now can't really under rules.
No. And you can take your own food and not have the biscuits taken off your children. It's great.
All of that. All of that. And for a family, it's relatively low pressure. You don't have the pressure. You can take your children of any age. Nobody minds. They can run around all over the place. They can eat what they want, and they can watch you have a bet, and quite easily get really close to the action. I genuinely believe that anyone who's been taken point-to-pointing under the age of 10 will have a love of horse racing in some form for life.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. And
it's relaxed. It's not forced on them.
Yeah. And like you say, you can stand a meter away from the horses as they pile over the final fence, or you can, if it's not your bag, you can still got a good chance of having a good family day out as a group. So Nick, you're going to Aintree tomorrow, and I've just had it hot off the press on good authority that Late Night Pass will take his chance. And Late Night Pass is sort of a jewel in the crown of British pointing, and a feel good story for so many reasons. Obviously, homebred by Tony and Pippa Ellis, trained by their son Tom, ridden by wife Gina, and now trained by her brother-in-law Dan Skelton. It would be an incredible story for racing. It would be another great Grand National story, and a hell of a story for British pointing. Give it to me straight, Nick. What chance would you give the horse if you like?
Good chance. I just had checked on his rating, 149. So they basically don't want to be doing anything now, do they? They don't want to be doing anything that's going to compromise a rating of 149. So it makes life. Yeah, no, it doesn't actually, because it's fine. They're not because they're not going to be running in between now and the time the weights come out, are they?
No,
they're fine. So they're fine to go to the Cheltenham Festival and use the cross country as a stepping stone, aren't they?
Yes. Now, I think this is public knowledge. If not, we'll edit it out. But it's okay to be public. They're likely to go. Tom told me this evening they're likely to go to Haydock for a prep run along the way. But like you say, as long as the weights are out, at your fancy dinner tomorrow, the weight will remain unchanged regardless of what happens at Haydock.
149. Yeah, no, it's just an Aintree committee dinner tomorrow.
Oh, so I see. It's not the weights dinner. Excuse my ignorance, Nick. It's been a busy day.
But am I allowed to get Tom or Gina or Ellis on my podcast tomorrow, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I'm allowed to do that, yes, that's great, and I very much appreciate the steer. I think he'd be a horse with a serious chance. I mean, he's going to stay. He's very game. We know he's run around the track extremely well already. So, yeah, I'd say he's going to be among the favourites, isn't he?
Yeah, I was at Cheltenham the last twice he ran, and I always think when you're there in the flesh, you can sometimes, if you know horses and you're around them enough, you see how they are before the race, after the race, and as they cross the finishing line. I just got the huge impression that he wasn't done winning, and that he would have a genuine chance, if they let him take it. Anyone who's got a horse that they bred and love dearly would obviously have some reservation about the national fences and the marathon trip, but good on them for giving it a go. And I can see it happening.
Yeah, I could. He's by a stallion I love, who I think massively upgrades his families, and they're tough and they stay. And as I say, he's got all the attributes. And those cross country races, the race he won last time, it was stacked full of good horses. So
yeah,
I think it's great. And as I say, as you'd expect from that firm, 149. Now there's 34 runners. You're going to need mid to high 140s to sit right on the button. Yeah, I think they might have just played this to perfection.
Could be an incredible day when it comes around. So Nick, actually, this may get edited out because Steph is a little bit fussy about what she finds boring from me, which is most things. But I've actually got a bit of an official apology to give you. Now, during COVID, I was seconded onto the paddock team at Market Raisin, and you were there. And the horses were in the pre-parade ring, and you're actually supposed to be doing a VT, or whatever the technical term is, introducing the horses in the pre-parade ring. And me being in the events industry is such a stickler for being bang on time that I just sent them all down to the paddock. And he gazed across at me as if to say, "Are you serious?" But anyway, so sorry about that, Nick. But I'm very pleased that serendipity has led me to be able to give you a formal apology.
Bless you. I know you did no apology required either. I was probably being grumpy. Well, it was this is the last time I went to Market Raisin. It was unbelievably cold that day. I do remember that.
Yeah, it was. And I don't blame you for being grumpy, but
the reason I was there is because it was about the only meeting on, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And everyone was on tenterhooks because the TV were there in force, and I sent them down early. But anyway, look, if you're ever market raising again, let me know, and I'll take you for an apology pint. But
I love market raising. I had many very happy days there.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic course, and Nick, we've taken enough of your time.
It's a pleasure.
I'm really pleased that you could come on. Have you got any more stories that you're just dying to tell us from your past with pointing, or should we leave it there?
Well, no, I mean, not especially, but I did promise earlier. I was talking to you about when my brother was riding in Hunter Chases, and he, he wouldn't mind me saying he's a genuine amateur. He had a job and was doing it for fun, but he did have a couple of horses that took him to some fun tracks to ride around. I don't know if you run horses like that at these tracks now. Probably everything's got so professional, but he had a couple of spins around Cheltenham. Said riding in the Kimia was the most terrifying thing he'd ever done on a 100-to-1 shot. Within that, they had about 30 runners in those days, and they're crashing out all over the place. But he probably didn't realize it at the time, but I do remember him riding not a bad horse that my mum trained, called Hurricane Hugo, in a novice hunter chase at Ascot, and him coming back in on firm ground, finished an all right fourth, and sort of saying, I just had never been so fast in my life. I don't know how the winner stayed going that pace, and the winner was Dido Harding on Cool Dawn. Just set off like a bat out of hell and never stopped.
Amazing.
That was I think that might have been the first time, and then there was another occasion when he rode a pretty slow horse around Kempton and finished third or fourth, and the two who fought it out were Cool Dawn and Tea Planter, who were probably the two most legendary horses who ran in this sphere of the last, I don't know, 30 years.
Yeah, amazing. So he's been there to witness history, even if he wasn't a part of it. And although we firmly believe that he will be making history again on Sunday with a much delayed winner for Sound of Music, and we're all...
I think that's asking too much, but for him, he's put, honestly, talk about a labor of love. He has put so much time and care into her that I just keep my fingers crossed that all goes smoothly. But it's quite something to just even thinking about getting it back on a race course with an entry, and it'll be good to see the colours out. So
absolutely, like for everyone involved in pointing, win, lose or draw, it's guaranteed to be a fun family day. So
and the thing is, I fly to Florida on Monday to do the Eclipse Awards and the Pegasus for NBC. So I feel like I need to keep my feet on the ground and go to Taunton on Saturday, which I'm going to be doing for Racing TV, and hopefully go to Cocklebarrow point to point on Sunday.
Amazing.
Best of all worlds.
Nick, thanks so much for your time tonight, and we'll hopefully get you back on sometime soon.
Anytime. All right, man. Cheers.
Thanks, Nick.
Top man.
Well, Sam, obviously, as well as being delighted that Nick could join us on this podcast, and very kind of him to do so, as I must have said about 100 times. He is fascinating to talk to about anything to do with racing. I'd imagine you could just start talking to about anything at all, to be honest, and it'd be interesting. But he's got obviously a colossal depth of knowledge and a very bright mind. Some interesting things in that conversation.
Yeah, I especially thought what he said about what we need to do more of is promoting within, as in, showcasing what we do best. Whether that be trainers going through the ranks from pointing to under rules racing, try and bridge that gap between it. It's not a bad thing that pointing needs to be connected with national hunt racing. We need that, and we need that support. You look at the jockeys that have come through the ranks. Sean Bowen, Harry Cobden, Lorcan Williams, Ben Jones, trainers. That started off point to point in Paul Nicholls, Nicky Henderson. We need to push that. We need to get involved and promote that the best we can, to kind of promote our sport, really, because we're the grassroots of that, and we need to make people aware of that. Yeah,
100%. And obviously, you've been a a fan from within, so to speak, of Late Night Pass. You've been, part of that story in your own way, and it is pretty pinch yourself stuff when Nick Luck turns around and sort of points out that he could be amongst the favourites.
I don't see why he shouldn't be. And that's we've got 2 months, 4 months now, so 3 months till Aintree, and I think that's something we need to get on the bandwagon of. Whether you're, another yard in point to pointing, or you're another National Hunt yard, a homebred horse gone through the pointing ranks to then end up with a chance in the Grand National is something that everyone needs to get behind in the pointing community, and back it and shout from the rafters that this is what we can produce from as Gina put it on the Nick Luck Daily this morning. Well, today, sorry. He was a feral homebred. Now look at him. He's, it's just everyone needs to shout, get behind it and support it. And I think that's what, as a community, we should be doing.
Yeah, and I'm sure that will be the case. Yeah, for anyone who hasn't caught it, we're recording this on Tuesday, slightly early, but I managed to speak to Nick on Monday night, and he very kindly made a bit of a fuss about the Late Night Pass story on his show on Tuesday. It's quite easy to find on your preferred listening platform, because he named it a late night national. So you can go and find that and listen to it for some more fun.
And he's going to hopefully have a run at the weekend.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's completely, do you know what? Completely fortuitous timing. We genuinely didn't know that when we asked him to come on. And it just so happened that this has been a long-term plan, amongst the family. In terms of getting back on a pointing course with the horse in question. And it'd be really interesting to see how he gets on. Don't know about you, Sam, but I wish him luck on Sunday.
These jokes, that's going to put people off like the Christmas jokes. You can't do that.
What one for Dan Chairman, that one. Anyway, let's talk about racing this weekend. We are racing at Revesby and Lark Hill, and it's looking testing out there in the sense that it's pretty cold in Lincolnshire and all over the place. It's -4 tonight. Now, I spoke to a good friend of mine, Sally Spink, who runs things up at Revesby earlier on, and this is what she had to say to encourage you.
Sally Spink, honorary secretary of Revesby Point to Point and all things under the sun to all people. Hope you're well. Sally, you and the team have been working extremely hard as always to make sure racing goes ahead on Saturday. How hopeful are you at this stage that we will be racing on the 20th? Hope you're well. Speak to you soon.
Good evening, Benjamin. The Revesby Races team are undertaking steps and all measures to work towards being able to run on Saturday. We're staying really positive. We've got a very proactive, busy team. It's great fun actually to be with them. The course has been fleeced in areas, as you'll see on Instagram and Facebook. Fences are sheeted in front and behind, so we're doing as much as we can. And they've actually worked really well today when I've been at the course. We hope that we can welcome, obviously, those that have entered and the public to enjoy the day on Saturday. Regular information and updates will be available on Instagram and Revesby Races Facebook page. So keep an eye out, and everything's crossed that we can welcome everyone to come. So thank you.
Sam, there appears to be plenty of entries at both courses. Presumably some are double entered.
Yeah, obviously, I think if I'm being completely honest, Revesby and Lark Hill are going to be up against it for Saturday, looking at the forecast. Unfortunately, as well as Ascot, so John Bon, El Fabiolo, we could not be seeing that clash on Saturday, which would be a shame. And hopefully the Winter Millions at Lingford goes ahead. But and obviously the Jumping for Fun Hunter Chase at Ludlow on Thursday has had a good turnout. Some nice horses in there. It looks a competitive race, but I'd say there's little to absolutely no chance of that going ahead. And then Sunday, I think we'll probably be all right, actually. Cocklebarrow for the Lord Ashton and Hyde Men's Open, the big race of the day there. Cocklebarrow have received 121 entries, which is an increase on last season. which is great. And there's some nice horses that are going to contest that. That's the main race on the day. Obviously, it's a good card throughout. Bradley's horse, if he goes there, Highway Jewel. She's a very good mare.
Yeah, we got a nice bunch entered this weekend. Obviously, weather permitting now, his forecast is not looking very good, but got 4 going to Revesby on Saturday. Obviously, Fizja again, he makes his return. He's in good order. Got a very nice maiden. Goes very well at home. What's called Premier Fantasy. He'll run Saturday. Then the bumper horse at Revesby, he goes nicely at home, so we will see with him. And then we got a very nice maiden that runs Sunday, horse called Crocodile Lounge. Very good Irish form. Finished 4th twice. Form seems to be working out very well, so we're very hopeful with them. And then obviously Highway Jewel and Springtown Salden. They are what it says in the tin, really. They go out and do what they can every time we run. So fingers crossed for a big weekend.
The Ellis team have got Master Templar, Miss Seagreen, who beat Sinone last year at Cheltenham, a horse we've talked about a lot on here. Take a place there as well. So that looks like it's going to be a competitive race. Jed Forest up north, not as many entries, 67. Hopefully that can get the go ahead and be a northern fixture for the weekend. And then Chipley Park down south, 121 entries, which is where Mr. Biddick will be heading. James King will be heading to Cockleborough, Mr. Biddick, Chipley Park. So fingers crossed the Sunday can go ahead and we get some racing over the weekend.
Sam, you obviously weren't listening to my friend Sally, because they are going to be working incredibly hard to get Revesby away, and you've sort of put them away there, saying that it's next to not going to happen. If I know the team at Revesby, they'll be grafting to make sure it does go ahead.
I wish them all the best, Ben, but I'm being realistic here. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but unless you've got a lot of hair dryers, sorry to upset you here.
No, not upsetting. Just not angry, Sam. I'm disappointed. So I think it's about time we draw this episode to a close. Is there any other business?
Not for myself. I think we've covered a lot, and I'm glad you managed to speak to Nick Luck. Well done. I'm really pleased for you.
Well, it's been a pleasure as always. If there's anything that you would like to hear on this podcast in the forthcoming weeks, do let us know. If there's any trainers that you want to get some info from, jockeys that you want to hear about certain rides or whatever, please do get in touch. We want to make sure that we get around as many people and places and scenarios as possible, and keep talking about this wonderful sport of ours. So thanks again for listening, and we will see you sometime soon. Sam, the pleasure was all yours.
Thank you, Ben. Good night.
Good night. You're listening to Pointing Pointers, the Point to Point podcast.